This dates back to summer of 2012, summer of 2013, around there. Definitely June or July. It was hot. It was so hot outside. It was like you could literally feel the heat just permeating off the concrete, like classic New York summertime. This story, the whole ordeal, starts on a Friday afternoon and ends Sunday morning. So it's definitely not something that just like immediately happened. But my brother called me Friday afternoon. He was like, "Yo, Josh, like I need help moving. You think you and Poppy can help me?" And I was like, "I think so." You know what I'm saying? Like, just when do you think you need us? Today. I was like, okay. I had no advance notice, but he was a grad student at Pratt in Brooklyn, and he had just recently graduated, but he was living off campus. And I think he thought that he had more time to stay there, but the landlord, who did give him advance notice, the landlord was like, "Listen, you need to be out by this time." And so he didn't like properly plan for this. So he waited until the last minute and called us, but we were down. We were there. We were like, all right, cool. We'll go get the U-Haul truck. We'll come down. We were living in Yonkers, but we knew we had to go to Brooklyn. So we were like, all right, we'll figure this out. So we rented the U-Haul, drove to Brooklyn, and nothing had been done. Like nothing had been packed. And so we knew we were in for a night, but we didn't know how long it would take. And we didn't know how much space we had because we anticipated something different. And the size of the U-Haul truck that we got was wrong. And so we had to take 2 trips. So we drove from Yonkers to Brooklyn, packed that first load, drove back to Yonkers, unpacked, drove back to Brooklyn, packed again, and then we went home, right? So we got home around 4:30 in the morning, Saturday morning. And the next day, mind you, it was hot. I told you it was hot. So the next day, I had to go to my mechanic, who was also my cousin. I had to go get my air conditioning fixed. And the only appointment that I could get, because I wasn't paying him, because he was family, he was doing me a solid, was like 7 a.m. It was before all of his other clients that were actually giving him bread showed up. And I was in a hoopty, so I needed the air conditioning. It was very important that I had the AC for the summertime. And so I remember drove to Jersey City. He hooked the air conditioning up, but because I had gotten in at 4:35, I didn't get any sleep really. I just like kind of closed my eyes, jumped back up, went to Jersey City. And at the time, I was working with a close family friend, Sonny Jones, who lived in Jersey City, producer, MC, engineer. So his studio was at his house. So I was like, okay, I'm in Jersey City. I might as well go and knock out some records. So I go to the studio. We're working on records. The momentum is, the momentum and the adrenaline is keeping me awake. I've been awake now at this point for a very long time. I only slept for like an hour. And we get a call from Sonny's brother-in-law, Darius, who is one of my really good friends from high school, from college. And me and Darius, we worked on a billion records. He would drum for me when I perform. And so he called and he was like, "Yo, I don't know if y'all like remembered, but I'm about to go abroad. I'm about to go study abroad in South Africa. The family's gonna do this barbecue." I was like, "All right, lit. I'm down." You know what I'm saying? In my mind, I'm gonna go for a little bit, eat some amazing food, probably take a nap. I sleep everywhere, so I'll take a nap, and then like the next morning, I'll go home. But I wasn't planning on like continuing to drive once I got back to Brooklyn. So we were like, all right, cool. All right, D, like we'll pull up on you in Brooklyn. Drove to Brooklyn and we got there kind of late. The momentum of the afternoon and like working on records and everything kind of pushed us, I think, closer to maybe 9 p.m. And then there's the traffic from the tunnel, like driving from Jersey City to Brooklyn, which is like a whole other beast. But by this time, the day, it feels normal. Everything is starting to kind of like settle in, and I am getting tired, but I know that after I eat, I'm gonna go to sleep. Drive to Brooklyn, get to Brooklyn, just like I knew, amazing grub. So I have a couple of plates, I'm chilling, but I don't fall asleep because we're talking, we're laughing, we're having that like familial engagement. And so I was just up, like just kicking it. And I start to get ready to close my eyes again around maybe like 2 a.m. the next morning. And my brother calls me. Again, he calls me. He was like, "Yo, I need you to come grab me." And I was like, "What do you mean you need me to come grab you?" He was like, "Yo, like I'm a little drunk right now." And he was he was dealing with the situation, and he was like, look, I need you to come pick me up. I was like, okay, cool. I'll come get you. And I remember like Darius and Sonny, they were like, yo, like, are you good to drive, bro? You good? It's kind of late. Like, you've been up. Like, are you going to be all right? I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. Because in my mind, I had done this enough, right? Like, don't drive tired. But I had been driving kind of like close to E for a while. Like, you know, you're pursuing dreams and you're chasing things, and like, you know, you're kind of asleep, kind of awake. And I rolled the dice. I rolled the crapshoot, and I was like, all right, I'm going to come grab you. So I drove again from Brooklyn to the Lower East Side. I think it was down by Houston. And so I remember I'm driving, I get into the lower, and it's jumping. It's New York City summertime, so the street is lit. You know, everybody is still very much awake, super vibrant. You know, you smell all of the scents from all of the food. Music is popping from every single location, but I'm exhausted. Like, it's almost like when you are like seeing and hearing things in slow motion. So everything is happening around me, but I'm just moving off muscle memory. And I remember I get to him, and he gets in a car. I picked him up at a diner. He gets in a car, and I was like, bro, I am exhausted. I need you to talk to me. Stay awake, talk to me. He was like, all right, I got you, for sure. Mind you, he's drunk. He is twisted. So he gets in a car. He starts falling asleep. So like between Houston and Union Square, he's already asleep. And for those that don't know exactly what that distance is, it's like 4 minutes. Like, it's not like I was driving for a long time, but I did have to drive to Yonkers. So like, I knew I had a lot of ground to cover. I really needed him to stay awake because I was, you know, just losing it. So I'm like tapping him. I'm playing music as loud as I could. I opened all of the windows in the car. The air conditioning was on full blast. So he had the mix of like the heat that's like smacking him a little bit, but then the air conditioning is also smacking him on the other side. So it was just like ping pong, and he's just out. So we're going up the West Side Highway. He's falling asleep intermittently, but he's in and out. And I remember, you know, we get past like 59th Street, get past 100, so we're driving up. And if you keep going up the West Side Highway, there's a toll in between Inwood and the Bronx. And I knew, I was like, bro, I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in the hoopty. I've been running around all weekend. I do not want to pay a toll, which is, you know, it could have cut 5 minutes, but what we used to do is we would always get off at Dyckman and just take the streets, right? Get off at Dyckman, you cut through uptown, you drive straight up Broadway. Broadway turns into South Broadway. You're in Yonkers. And like, once you hit South Broadway, our house is like, you know, 5-10 minutes from South Broadway. So the last thing that I remember was signaling, putting my right turn signal on to get off of the highway at the Dyckman exit. And then I woke up. And when I woke up, my brother, he filled in a lot of these details because I was asleep. But when I woke up, we had already crashed. I fell asleep like before the turn, which is a miracle in itself that we even like made it past the turn, because it's like a sharp 90-degree turn. Like, it's not, I don't even know how it's like up to code, but the turn is like one of the craziest off-highway exit ramps that we have in the city. And when I had gotten off the exit ramp is around when my brother finally started to wake up. I've been trying to get him to wake up and talk to me the whole ride, but around then is when he woke up, and he told me that he actually woke up like mid-crash. Like, he woke up as we were approaching the cars that we hit. So because of the way that I fell asleep and like everything, I wasn't really moving the steering wheel. We just literally drove straight, and we hit, by the grace of God, looking back at it, we ended up hitting parked cars. So we hit the first parked car, and then that had a domino effect, and we ended up connecting with 6 parked cars. So I totaled my car and 6 parked cars. Didn't hit any people, but because he saw everything, he was freaking out. He was like, oh my God. He told me that he was like, you know, trying to grab me, wake me up, grab my face, but I was asleep, like with my elbows across the steering wheel. And this part is kind of funny. In real time, it was not funny, but looking back at it, this is really funny. So when he gets nervous, he does this thing where he takes his socks off. And so just spur of the moment, he just like, he took his socks off. He tried to jump out the whip. But because we had just, crashed, even if we didn't crash, like I'm sure the street still had glass, but because of the like debris from like the car, the windows, whatever, there was like shards of glass right next to the door. So he opened the door, he stepped out barefoot, stepped on glass, hopped back in the car because it hurt obviously. And he's grabbing me, trying to wake me up. And finally he wakes me up. I come to, but in my mind, I was home, right? I was telling Los earlier, I felt this like warm, like wave of a sensation. It felt like you were like sleeping at the beach. And so I had no idea where I was, but when he woke me up, I just smelled the smoke coming out of the engine. The music was still playing on the radio. The windows were still down. And so like you have the combination of like the smoke and the heat. And I was just like, what is happening? So I remember just screaming. I didn't know like any other emotion. So I just start screaming, what's going on? Yeah. And he's like, yo, we're good. So I get out the car. I look around to see what happened. Like, did I hit anybody? God forbid, because, that's a whole situation. Is everybody okay? Nobody was really around. I didn't see anybody, but I did see a line of people filming. Everybody had their phones out and they were just recording, like as if they had watched the crash happen, but didn't think to call the police, call for an ambulance, nothing. So I remember I got out the car hot. I'm yelling at people, fuck you doing that? And my brother's like, yo, call 911. Like, let's make sure for sure that nobody got hurt. I was like, all right. So I called 911. They sent an ambulance. They sent the police to come through. They gave me a breathalyzer. I told them that I hadn't been drinking. And I remember there was this older Dominican lady who was just screaming, standing next to the car and crying, like bawling, crying. And I remember, we asked what happened, and she was like, oh, I thought that I had just seen y'all die. Like I watched you guys crash and I thought that you had died. And then she saw us come out. And so I think it was just a combination of the initial belief that she had witnessed a tragedy and then she witnessed a miracle. So it's that interesting mix of emotion. So she was losing it, going crazy. And I remember the paramedic came, he was checking my elbow because the way that I had fallen asleep, again, it was like my arms were crossed across my chest and my chin was in my arms. So my elbows were on the steering wheel, like blocking my face from actually, I guess, taking any damage. And when the airbag exploded, it popped my elbow back. So like my elbow snapped back and hit the window, but my face didn't really get hit at all. It was just my elbow. My left elbow got pretty jacked up. So I had a contusion, and the paramedic was like, yo, like, yeah, I know you were going 90 miles per hour on impact. You should be dead, right? And that has always stuck with me all these years, because I was like, bro, who hired this man? Like to tell somebody that they should be dead. But I understood what he was saying was that like he was even in shock because the speed that we were going on impact, people normally do not walk out of that. And so I remember I always felt like that was a miracle. I really felt like God was with us in that exact moment. And that's something that I've always carried with me.